But 1983 wasn't just another alien invasion story. It was a warning. A story about fascism, propaganda, and what happens when people stop asking questions, dressed up as a sci-fi miniseries so Americans would actually watch it.
It's an adventure story. It's a mystery, and it's an adventure.
Here are 14 things you never knew about V. 1. It was never supposed to have aliens. Kenneth Johnson didn't set out to write a sci-fi show. His original script, called Storm Warnings, was a straight retelling of how fascism quietly takes root in modern America. No spaceships, no lizard people, no alien invasion, just humans, fear, and the slow surrender of freedom to people who smiled while they took it. He presented it to NBC in 1982. The network liked the bones of the idea, but told him Americans would never believe a foreign power could conquer them from within. NBC President Brandon Tartikoff suggested reframing the threat as something from outside, Soviets, Chinese, or aliens. Johnson chose aliens. The reptile invaders were always just a costume. The warning underneath never changed. 2. The whole thing started with a 1935 novel. Johnson didn't invent the warning, he inherited it. His script was based on It Can't Happen Here, the novel by Sinclair Lewis, published in 1935 at the peak of fascism's rise across Europe. Lewis wrote it as a direct alarm to Americans who believed their country was immune. Johnson took that source material seriously. He studied the Third Reich closely while writing. He watched Triumph of the Will, Leni Riefenstahl's Nazi propaganda film, and Night and Fog, Alain Resnais's devastating Holocaust documentary. Johnson said both contributed ideas, visuals, characters, and tonal concepts to everything V became. Every detail of the visitor occupation was drawn from that research. The red and black uniforms, the swastika-like symbol, the youth recruitment program, the propaganda media. None of it was invented. All of it had a historical address.
We have come because we need your help.
3. The marketing campaign fooled an entire city. 3 weeks before the premiere, mysterious posters started appearing in subway and train stations across major American cities. They showed a smiling man in wraparound sunglasses surrounded by others grinning along with a single line of text: "The visitors are our friends." No network logo, no channel name, no explanation at all. 2 weeks before the broadcast, teams were sent out with spray cans to paint a red V over the posters, the same victory symbol used by resistance fighters in Nazi-occupied Europe during World War II. People stopped on platforms and stared. Arguments broke out about what it meant. Then NBC quietly added the broadcast date. Nothing about it looked like an advertisement for a TV show. It may have been one of the first true viral marketing campaigns in television history. And it worked because it used the show's own logic against the audience.
Where is everybody, huh?
I don't know, they're gone.
How long ago?
About 3 days.
4. A cast member was murdered during production. Dominique Dunne had just broken through with her role as the older daughter in Poltergeist. She was cast as Robin Maxwell, and filming had already begun. On the night of October 30th, 1982, she was at her West Hollywood home, rehearsing lines with co-star David Packer, when her estranged ex-boyfriend arrived without warning. He strangled her outside the apartment. She never regained consciousness. She died 5 days later. She was 22 years old. Production halted for 2 weeks. Blair Tefkin was brought in to replace her, and every scene Dunne had filmed was reshot from scratch. Kenneth Johnson dedicated the finished miniseries to her memory in one early group scene, captured before her death, showing the visitor's arrival. Dunne is still there, visible from the back. One final frame that couldn't be replaced.
It's very, very dangerous for me here now.
What does he look like, a Sunday afternoon in Disneyland? I'm sure Barbara was scared, and Tony too. Hell, man, we're all scared. Every last damn one of us.
5. Johnson had 2.5 weeks to start filming. NBC greenlit V fast. The network had been hemorrhaging ratings for years and desperately needed an event, something that would make people plan their week around the television, but the speed came at a price. Johnson had roughly 2.5 weeks to get everything ready before cameras had to roll. Most miniseries of that scale were given 4 to 5 months. He pulled it off. But the brutal schedule drove costs through overtime and mandatory weekend shooting. Then the tragedy of Dominique Dunne added 2 weeks of halted production and a full round of reshoots on top of that. The original budget was around $8 million, a figure the production blew past almost immediately. By the time V finally aired, it had cost $13 million, nearly double what anyone planned. 6. Every single laser blast cost $8,000. Each individual laser effect in the miniseries carried a price tag of $1,000. On a production already running 60% over budget, that ease was impossible to ignore. And there are a lot of laser blasts in V. The special effects team couldn't just light up the frame whenever the scene called for it. Every discharge of a visitor weapon was a budget conversation first. Creative decisions and financial decisions became the same decision. It's the kind of invisible constraint that shapes a production in ways audiences never see. Every clean laser hit on screen represents someone on set doing math. The wonder is that V still managed to look as spectacular as it did, not just for television, but for the era entirely. 7. The guinea pig scene was built from a fake jaw. Diana swallowing a live guinea pig whole became the most talked about moment on television the morning after it aired. People called their friends. People called the network. There was no CGI in 1983. The whole effect was constructed using a prosthetic head built around a mechanical jaw engineered to unhinge like a snake's. The guinea pig was real. It was not harmed. Jane Badler had to sell the entire scene with her eyes and her stillness, while a mechanical jaw did the work below her face. Entertainment Weekly later named it one of the best TV reveals ever made. The fake head looks dated now. The scene has never stopped being unsettling. There's something in the way Badler holds her gaze, calm, satisfied, completely alien, that no amount of better technology has ever been able to replicate. 8. Robert Englund played a gentle alien, then became Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund was cast as Willie, a sweet, awkward visitor who struggles with English, causes accidental chaos wherever he goes, and quietly sides with the human resistance.
I'm just.
You don't know where to go.
I'm just.
You're lost.
It was a warm, genuinely funny performance. Audiences who had never heard of Englund found themselves rooting for him from the first episode. The following year, he put on a burned face, a razor-fingered glove, and a battered hat and became Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street, one of the most terrifying horror villains ever put on screen. The same actor. 12 months apart, the man who made millions trust a bumbling alien made those same millions afraid to fall asleep. It remains one of the strangest and most dramatic range pivots in genre television history. 9. The casting almost went very differently. Johnson wanted an unknown for Mike Donovan, someone with genuine leading man weight, but without the expectations that came with a recognizable name. He landed on Mark Singer, who had Shakespearean stage experience and had just carried the fantasy film Beastmaster on his shoulders. For Julie Parrish, Faye Grant was turned down after her first audition. She came back, auditioned again and again. Eventually, she simply outlasted the hesitation and got the role. For Diana, several actresses were rejected for playing the villain too obviously, too much snarl, too much menace telegraphed in every line. Jane Badler got the part by doing the opposite. She played Diana with ice-cold restraint, no theatrics, just total control. That choice made Diana genuinely dangerous rather than simply theatrical, and it's why the character still holds up 40 years later. 10. 4 in 10 Americans watched Part 1. V premiered on May 1st, 1983, 2 nights back-to-back on NBC. The first episode became the second most watched program of the entire week. 40% of all televisions in the United States were tuned to it. Return of the Jedi was 3 weeks away. Sci-fi was at peak cultural fever. Starlog had been feeding fan excitement for months. And NBC, which had been losing the ratings war badly enough that the network was genuinely worried and suddenly had the biggest television event of the season, one weekend, 2 nights, $13 million, and V turned a struggling network's fortunes around almost overnight. No test screenings, no social media, no algorithm, just word of mouth and a marketing campaign that made people feel like they were part of something before it even started. 11. Johnson was pushed out of his own sequel after V's enormous success. NBC greenlit V. The final battle almost immediately. Johnson was told he would not be directing any of it. Warner Brothers took full creative control. His script was handed to other writers. Reportedly, 6 people worked on rewriting it. Johnson removed his name from the writing credits entirely. He is listed on the final battle as Lillian Weezer. The sequel abandoned most of the political allegory Johnson had spent years building. The careful Nazi parallels gave way to soap opera twists and action spectacle. The franchise that had started as a documented warning about how fascism seduces ordinary people became exactly the kind of loud, empty entertainment Johnson had been trying to transcend. He never stopped trying to get his version of the story finished. He never fully succeeded. 12. V came before Independence Day by 13 years. The image of massive saucer-shaped ships hovering silently over the world's major cities, one of the defining visuals of modern science fiction, belongs to V first. 50 motherships, each 3 miles across, parking in low orbit directly above the capitals of Earth. That image aired on NBC in May 1983. Independence Day used the same concept in 1996 and became a global blockbuster. Roland Emmerich's film made $1 billion. V made $13 million to produce and aired on a network bleeding ratings. The design language, the scale, the cities in shadow dread, the helplessness of looking up. The template was already fully formed more than a decade earlier on a television budget. V built the house. Independence Day sold it to the world. 13. The V symbol came from a Holocaust survivor by design. In the show, it isn't a soldier or a rebel leader who first paints the red V over a visitor propaganda poster. It's Abraham Bernstein, an elderly Holocaust survivor watching history repeat itself from his front porch. His own grandson, Daniel, has joined the Visitor Youth Program and is already informing on neighbors. Abraham has seen this before. He knows exactly what stage of the playbook they're on. He picks up a can of paint. Johnson made that choice deliberately. He wanted the symbol of resistance to come from lived memory, not from heroics. The V didn't belong to the action sequences. It belonged to the people who recognized the pattern because they had already survived it once. That detail is what separates V from every other alien invasion story ever made. 14. The scientists were targeted first, and that was the whole point. The visitors don't go after soldiers or governments first. They go after scientists, not because scientists are physically dangerous, but because scientists are the people most likely to find the truth and refuse to let go of it. They test claims. They ask for evidence. They don't accept things on faith just because a smiling authority figure said so. Johnson said it was the most deliberate decision in the entire script. Discrediting and disappearing the people who deal in evidence isn't a random act of cruelty. It's the first move. It clears the field. Once the truth tellers are gone or discredited, everything else becomes easier. It happened under the Nazis. It happened in V. It keeps happening. That's the reason Kenneth Johnson made the show in the first place, and the reason it refuses to feel like history. V asked one question 40 years ago and never stopped asking it. How long would you wait, and how much would you give up, before you finally push back? Drop your answer in the comments. If this one hit different, subscribe. There's a lot more buried in the shows you thought you already knew.